Yo, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you having us. Thank you so much on behalf of myself, on behalf of Small Talks. Really excited to get this going.
Hell yeah, I'm stoked. Thanks, man.
Well, fantastic. Well, fantastic. Before I start up, do you prefer Upstart? Do you prefer Taylor? What do you prefer I call you?
You can call me whatever. I mean, Upsall's my artist name, but my name is Taylor, so it's up
Fair
to you.
enough. Because
Hell
I
yeah.
figured, I'm not that much younger than you, so I figured Miss Upsall was probably going to be a little bit out of the question.
Love it.
Well,
Yeah, Upsall,
fantastic.
Taylor, whatever.
Well, all right then. Well, then, if Taylor's all right, we'll go with that. Well, fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on, Taylor. We're very excited to get this going, as I said. So, if you don't mind me starting, we'll start off with the movie record. Have you ever seen That Thing You Do?
The what?
That Thing You Do. It's a great old Tom Hanks movie. It's about American
Oh,
band back in the 60s. They start this band out of Erie, Pennsylvania, to meet up with the Beatles during Beatlemania in the 60s. And there's a scene in that movie when they first get their song on the radio and they go running through the streets of Erie, Pennsylvania. Now, my first question is, in the golden age of streaming here in the great year of our Lord 2022, what was the first time you ever heard your song on the radio? And what was that like for you?
first of all, I need to watch that movie because that sounds
Fantastic
amazing.
movie.
And
Old
I'm
Tom
like
Hanks
hate
movie. One of my
myself that I
favorites.
haven't seen an old Tom Hanks movie. But the first time I heard my song on the radio, I think I was 12 and I had this song called Disturbance that was like so emo, so depressing, which was weird because I was like a very happy kid, but I was like writing all of these very sad songs. And this like local radio station in Phoenix played it. I think my dad like sent it in or something, like being such a dad, like you should listen to my daughter's music. And they ended up playing it. And then it was like they kept it on rotation for like my entire like childhood pretty much. I got to like hear my song on the radio when I was like driving around in my parents' car. Um yeah, it was kind of trippy. It still is very surreal, like hearing songs that you just like wrote in the studio with your friends be like on the radio. You know, it's like the weirdest feeling. I still like don't really process it. It's strange.
It's gotta be amazing. So it sounds like your family's always been a huge supporter of your musical career, from what I've read and what from you've told me now.
Yeah, for
Fantastic. So
sure.
then, have they always been? How have they reacted to newfound success in the last couple of years? They've always been very musically inclined. It sounds like.
Yeah, my dad was in like punk bands all throughout my childhood. So was always surrounded by music. Like we had a band room in the house and there were instruments, available to me to just like mess around and like figure out how to play piano and guitar and drums like from a young age. And my parents were just very encouraging of that. Um, as of recently, I mean, they still play such a big role. I send them demos every day. I'm like, this is what I made in the studio today. Like I annoy the shit out of them all the time still. So yeah, they're still along for the ride. It's great.
Amazing. And on that subject of music from your childhood, what's that first memory of music from your childhood? I know you had your dad was in a couple punk bands. He was in bands like Stereotype Rider and High Horse. I read a little bit about Stereotype Rider. Big fan
Yeah.
of them. A big fan of Ren. So that lies in that same kind of category. But I know for me, my first memory was always classical music and Elvis Presley always playing in the house. What's that one sound that always takes you back?
Um, ooh, that's a good question. Probably Radiohead. Like we always had vinyl playing in the house all the time. And so Radiohead had a big influence on like just like it just reminds me of like running around my house as a kid, but also a lot of Weezer. Like I'm pretty sure when my mom was like literally like in the hospital giving birth to me, she was like jamming out to the Blue Album by Weezer. So I was like, that was the first album I guess I ever heard was the Blue Album. So yeah, Weezer and Radiohead for sure.
Amazing. You don't hear that too often as a first album for sure. You always feel like
Right?
it's going to be something a little bit more classic, but that's a great place to start. I think it's a great intro to greater rock and roll, I would argue.
Hell yeah. I also think like that album was so like it what is it? It like started like a shift in pop music, I guess, because it is like such
Hmm.
a hard like rock album, but it's like pop writing. And I think I don't know, it just created this whole like shift in the 90s for music. And it's like my favorite album ever. It's so good.
Fantastic. So you've been learning music since you were six. You learned started, if I remember reading this correctly, you started learning grand classical piano when you were six. So it's safe to say this is kind of fulfilling a lifelong dream for you. Is it everything you'd hope to be, and is the dream still the dream, and is it living up to the hype you thought it would be?
Totally. I mean, yeah, for me, music has always just been like the only option because it's always been the only thing I was even like remotely good at and like the only thing I enjoyed doing. So I remember like, once I graduated high school, I was like, I need to just full send it in music because I will not be happy doing literally anything else. So just the fact that music is my job now and that I can just do this every day and can call that like a job and a career is like the dream. I mean, obviously I want to continue to grow and like meet more fans and tour more and put out more music and grow, but like yeah, I would say every day that I get to make music as my job is definitely like me fulfilling my childhood dream. It's so cheesy,
Amazing.
but yeah, it's real. Yeah.
Not everybody gets that, so it's always a question to ask. Is it what you thought it would be? Now, did you ever expect you were going to be as big a pop star as you are nowadays? You know, obviously it's, of course it's the dream, and everybody thinks they're going to be the next Led Zeppelin, touring multiple countries and all over the world. But did you ever expect it was going to be this far? And what was that moment you were like, oh shit, I'm going to make it?
Oh, where I mean, I still don't think I've had the moment of like, I'm gonna make it or I've made it. I think like I think just the fact that I get to like tour, like my first tour was like a big moment for me. It was in like 2019 and I got to like go on the road for a month. I was like, this is literally all I've wanted to do forever. And the fact that I get to do this now is crazy. So I just want to do more of that. But I think like my entire life, the past like 4 years, just like little things, even like if I get to go to a meeting with like a songwriter or producer I really respect and like they want to listen to some of my music, or if I'm like get to do a writing camp with my friends that I love in like a dope house on the beach somewhere making music. Like those moments for me are like little like, oh, I'm doing it. Like I'm doing what I've always wanted to do type of moments. So they happen a lot. I feel like there will never be like a one big moment for me. You know, I feel like it always is just kind of building.
More of a culmination of a lot of smaller moments into this greater scheme of things.
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, so that being said, it can't be all business all the time. How has your approach to writing and approach to producing changed since you've gained all this different access to different studios and different songwriters and everything, or has it always been more of the joy of creation for you?
Um, I think it just depends on what my life is like at the time. Like the songs that I'm making very heavily depend on just like how I'm feeling that day. And I feel really fortunate to have kind of like a little crew of writers and producers that I work with, like on the daily, I guess. So yeah, I think it just depends. I think the biggest thing for me in the past year, like making my album Lady Jesus and like working on new music right now, is just making it fun. Like for a while, I was like so like overthinking it in every session. And then once we started getting into writing my album, I realized like all of my favorite songs were just the ones that we were having fun making. And as cheesy as it is, I think like that gets you the best like outcome. So I'm just there to vibe. And like if we get a cool song, we get a cool song. If not, at least we like have a good hang, you know?
Absolutely. It's all about the process. It's not always
Oh,
about the destination every time. So that being said, in terms of especially on the subject of the album, what's always drawn people to your music is how open and how honest and especially unapologetic your music has always been, and especially in your writing. And especially as a young person today in modern day America and the absolute shitstorm we're running through these days. My biggest question of this interview today is what did it take and how long did it take for you to become so straightforward with your outward persona, with your writing, and what does it take for someone to become that open and honest?
I think my like unapologeticness, I guess, in my songwriting kind of started once I started to figure out who I was. Like when I first moved to LA, I had no clue what the fuck was going on the majority of the time. And then I wrote this song called Drugs that I was like so scared to put out. Like the day we wrote it, I was like, I'm never putting this song out. Like it's saying too much. Like people are gonna get pissed when they hear it. And then I finally like had this sort of like turning point where I was like, that's the whole point of music, is to like be kind of jarring, and like maybe someone will hate the song, but maybe someone will love the song, and like that doesn't matter, you know? So releasing the song Drugs was kind of like the big turning point for me, not only as like a songwriter, but just as a person, and just being like, fuck it, like I'm putting out whatever music I want to. Yeah.
Fantastic. I can tell you, I definitely remember Drugs more painfully than other people would probably care to admit. So I worked a lot of retail in the last couple of years, and I
Sorry.
remember working a couple Black Fridays, and that song was beating me to death. But
You're like, please stop playing this song.
oh my
That's
God,
funny.
you can't just be at the party for the drugs. It's got to be something else.
That's amazing. I'm so sorry. That's
No,
hilarious.
no, absolutely. It's still a fantastic song. I still come back to it even now. It's just definitely got some fun memories attached to it.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Now I think I've got one or two more for you. If I could read my questions, good lord,
You're
I can't
chilling.
even read my own handwriting some days. So you
That's
signed
me.
back with Arista Records back in 2018, then you released the debut EP, Hindsight 2020. Has there been more of a big biz aspect to your approach to writing, or has wait, what? That's not. Am I reading the right one? Crap, sorry. I apologize for that. I had all these laid
Dude,
out, and then all of a
I'm
sudden I
chilling.
forget how to
I'm
read.
I'm still on my first coffee, so like I'm just figuring
You're
out how to
telling
talk
me I've
right
been up for
now.
30
Great.
minutes. That may
Mhm.
actually be everything I have for you. Yes, ma'am. That's it.
Oh, amazing. Hell yeah.
Oh, no, that's right. My last question, of course, always the fun one. What you listening to these days? What's the next big thing for you in music?
Ooh.
And what are you most excited about for this next big show in DC?
I'm so excited for this show in DC. Last time I was in DC was literally like 2 months ago. I was opening for Olivia O'Brien. And where do we play? I think we played somewhere in Silver Springs. I wrote it to, oh, it's called we played the Fillmore and it was so
Mhm.
sick. Have you been to a show there?
Not at the DC Fillmore, but we have one here in Charlotte that I've been to. I saw Khalid there. I saw Weird Al
Right.
Yankovic there twice. And uh, what's that one? Why Don't We? I saw them there too.
Okay, fire. It was a sick venue in DC. It was like my first time playing DC since like I did like a smaller tour like 2 years ago. So
Mhm.
DC went so hard and I cannot wait to be back, especially getting to do like a headlining show. I feel like there's something so fun about, I know like this time around we're in a much smaller venue, but I love just being in like a small, like sweaty, just like room with a bunch of people raging. It's gonna be really fun. So
They're the best.
yeah,
They're the
I'm
most
excited.
personal shows. You get all these people. It's such a much different connection than the stadium show, I would argue.
100%. Yeah. And for me, it's really fun because I don't get to do a lot of headlining shows. So when I do, it feels like I'm just like literally having a dance party with everyone there. Like we're all just like in it together. It's so fun. But yeah, I'm excited to be back. I guess what was the rest of the question? I'm sorry.
But what you listening to these days? What's top of the playlist?
Yeah. I've been listening to a lot of Doja Cat, obviously. I feel
Of
like everyone
course,
is right
Planet
now.
Her. Oh,
She's just such a baddie. Doja, a lot of Radiohead always, some old SZA, you know. I feel like I just repeat a lot of albums as of recently, and then obviously like try to keep up with new music that's coming out. But yeah, I've been going back to old albums. And I guess what's coming this year is just a lot of fucking tours or a lot of shows and a lot of music. I'm back in the studio working on whatever's to come, and I'm very excited to share what I've been working on with everyone.
amazing. Can we expect any new music showcase at the next couple shows?
Ooh, is maybe. Actually, yeah, maybe. Wink, wink. We'll see.
All right. We'll make sure everybody knows. We'll make sure we get the word on that. Thank you so much for coming on to speak with us today, Taylor. It's been fantastic. Good
Welcome.
luck to you on what is it, the 14th? No, 12th, 14th. Good luck on
Yeah,
the 14th for that next show. It's going to be fantastic. We'll have, I can't remember who we're sending up there to see. Unfortunately, I'm still down here in North Carolina, so I won't be able to make it up for the show.
oh,
But
right.
if you ever make it out to Charlotte or up in Madison, New Jersey, where I'll be the rest of the year, I'd
We'll
love to
rip.
get this going again. This would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course. Thank you so much. You have a great rest of your day and good luck to you.
Thanks. Talk to you soon. Thanks, Nina.